Shalom, guard your eyes, Chevra. So I want to share a very practical tip for Shmir Sinayim, and it will literally change both how you see it and how you protect yourself from potential pitfalls. So I want to go into the inner psychology of how the stumbling works. So the root of really all sin, all Avera, begins with Re'iyah. And if you look at the very first sin in Jewish history, right, the sin of eating from the Eitz Hadas, the Torah says that Chava saw the Eitz Hadas. And by the Chet Hegel, it says that they saw that Moshe didn't come down. Re'iyah, what Re'iyah does, and the Rambam talks about this, how the root of all Avera begins with Re'iyah that turns to imagination. Meaning what? Everything works based on triggers, right? You see something, that makes you think of something, makes you think of something else. Now, intellect, seichel, guides your thought. Imagination works just flow. Thoughts, you ever lie down your pillow at night and your mind is just like literally flowing from one thought to another thought? Or unfortunately for some people, like when they're davening Shemona Esrei, you kind of just like wake up in the middle of Shemona Esrei and your mind was just wandering. Imagination, your mind wanders and it goes by itself. It just goes from idea to idea, from image to image. And the way that sin works is that you see something, you get triggered, and that makes you think of something else. So for most people, the problem with Shmir Shinayim doesn't start by seeing something extremely inappropriate. It starts with the trigger. You see something that makes you think of something. And it makes you think of something maybe a little more inappropriate, or maybe you'll go to some unfiltered internet device because you were triggered. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that all of your internet devices are filtered and you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself when something gets triggered. But the absolute most fundamental strategy to really just, like, we want to help ourselves. We want to protect ourselves. We want to be the best when we're not in the midst. The Gemara talks about how whenever we do something wrong, there's a ruach shtus. We just kind of like, we lose all rational capabilities and we kind of wake up afterwards like, this is not who I am. So now that we are rationally focused, now that we are aware, we can say, okay, I understand how I work. If I think about every time I've messed up, it's always something that's triggered it. Whether it's a literal re'iyah or the concept of a trigger that causes that imaginative flow, you want to figure out what your triggers are. Whether it's when you walk by something, whether it's, something not inappropriate on your phone, but something that triggers something. Whether it's a certain store you walk in front of, whether it's find out what triggers you. Just self-awareness. Start to think about what triggers me, what sets me off, and then figure out a way of wiping away that trigger. Avoid it. Don't trigger yourself, because you'll see it'll literally change your life. If you can stop the trigger, you can stop the entire flow that happens afterwards. So we should be zocha, we should be inspired to not just overcome the struggle itself, but to proactively get rid of those triggers so we don't have the challenge in the first place.
Thank you for listening to the Guard Your Eyes Daily Chizuk broadcast. Pass them on to your friends and help spread Kedusha in the world.